Hello everyone, greetings from PayTabs technical support team. In this series, you will learn how to integrate with PayTabs through our PT2 API endpoints. Throughout the series, we will walk you through the second integration type, which is the invoices. And for the purpose of this series, we have created a very simple Laravel project to walk you through the integration process. But feel free to follow the steps in this series with your own project, whatever the programming language or the frameworks used to integrate with PayTabs. So, let's get started. In this video, we are going to learn more about one of our follow-up transactions, which is the void transaction. So, let's get started. The first thing you should know is that you can find the full documentation for this part inside PayTabs support portal under the article called the Invoices APIs Integration Manual. From the integration manual, you can see that we have a step 7 over here, which is dedicated to manage your transaction. And what we mean by managing your transactions, it means that if you have already created a transaction or you have already finalized an invoice and you want to do any transaction upon it, like refund it, cancel this invoice, capture and void, which we will learn more about right now, all of these are clarified in this step. So for this part, we are talking about the void transaction, and as clarified in the previous video, capture and void are only done upon auth transactions. Throughout this series, we used to use the sale transaction, and if you want to learn more about the differences between our transaction types, we highly recommend you to check this solution article, what is trend type. And here you can see that the sale transaction means that the amount of this transaction will be deducted directly from the customer bank. As for the auth transaction, this means that the amount will be deducted from the customer, but it will remain hold or authorized at the transaction bank until you capture it or void it. In the previous video we learned how to capture it. In this video we will learn how to void it, which means release it back to the customer. So right over here you can navigate to part 3, which is void transaction, and you will see that the request payload is very simple. You need the 7 main parameters, you need the transaction reference, only additionally the transaction reference of course that you want to void, and you need to change the transaction type to contain a void transaction type. This is exactly what we done over here. We have changed the transaction type, we have took the transaction reference from request from our front end, and we just use a simple callback to get this transaction details. So now simply what I'm going to do is I'm going to use I'm going first to initiate a very simple auth transaction. Of course, you need to make sure that your transaction type is auth, not sale. So right now I'm going to initiate an auth transaction. Here we go. I'm going to pay the invoice. Use one of my test cards. Pay it out. Now I have an authorized transaction. Just let's make sure it's over here that the transaction type is auth. Now the amount of this transaction is 60 Egyptian pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this transaction reference, and I'm going to my other view over here. As you can see, I have created a very simple view. It only takes the transaction reference and the void amount. This void amount will be sent into the cart amount parameter over here. This cart amount, okay, I will be taking this from this one over here, the void amount. So you need to know that you don't have to void the whole amount. So let's say I want to void out all the 60 amount, you can do that. Let's say I just want to void out 50 Egyptian pounds. So this is simply what I'm going. Just let's reload the page and paste the transaction again. Let's void out 50 amount. I'll void it out simply. As you can see now, it has been void. I have all the transaction details over here. The payment resulted authorized, and my callback, I can see all the details. Also, the only difference you will see that in the callback, the transaction type will be release. Release is the same as voice actually, but release is meant to be received in the response. Void is meant to be sent from your side in the request payload. Doing that, we have voided our transaction, and now we can move to the next part.